Welcome back to another exciting episode on the show. Today's guest is Julia Rock. She's a keynote speaker, leadership consultant, and certified executive coach, dedicated to transforming workplace dynamics and helping leaders create environments where all their employees can thrive. Julia, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
All right, so I would also like you to introduce yourself to my audience.
Sure. So as you heard, I am a certified executive coach, leadership consultant, a keynote speaker. I'm the founder of Rock Career Development. It's a boutique consulting firm where we partner with organizations to help transform their employee engagement and retention through leadership development solutions. So other organizations can help with employee perk packages, benefits, compensation. We focus on helping leaders become more effective so the organizations can grow and that employees, the top talent that you have, that they want to stay in the organization. So I've been coaching for 20 years now, and I had a long career in corporate. I was in financial services as well as energy. And so, but now I have my company, and we are just excited about all the leaders and organizations and associations that we get to help.
Right, thank you so much, Julia. So I have some questions here for you, and I would like us to get into them.
Okay.
All right, so what is one thing most companies get wrong when trying to fix engagement or retention issues?
What I would say that companies usually get wrong is that they think that there is like a quick fix, right? So they think that if employees are leaving or if morale is low or if they're struggling with retention, they feel like there's a quick fix. So maybe we just need to host a team building event or a pizza party or give out gift cards or something. They try to find something surface level to fix that problem. Or they try to, for lack of a better word, they try to pretend like they're doing something like, oh, we're going to hire a consultant, or we're going to do these leadership assessments or something. But they never spend the time in actually understanding what the root cause is. They never actually have the conversations with their employees. They never really get the feedback and evaluate the feedback from their employees to better understand what their concerns are, where the leadership may be falling short, where the trust may be broken between the leadership and the employees. And so that's what I would say they typically get wrong is they try to do a quick fix or some sort of surface level solution, or they try to pretend like they're doing something by hiring a consultant, but they keep the conversation amongst themselves instead of actually engaging the organization and engaging the employees to ask the deeper questions.
Right, thank you so much, Julia. So my next question for you is, if someone listening wants to become a stronger leader starting from today, where should they start from?
So I think there are a couple of different places that leaders can start, but I would say the very first thing is to start with defining the kind of leader that they want to be. When you say you want to be a better leader starting from today, what does that mean to you? Understanding what your leadership values are and understanding what's important to you and what kind of leader you want to be known as, that clarity helps to set the tone for everything else. So that's what I would say is the very first step, getting clear on what kind of leader you want to be. How do you define effective leadership? How do you define leadership success? And understanding what that means for yourself before stepping forward. The other thing that I would say is, and this is a shameless plug for my leadership philosophy, Uncomplicated Leadership, is really understanding what are the leadership behaviors that are essential to helping you be successful. So the Uncomplicated Leadership philosophy is really the idea that leadership is not complicated, it's just hard. But there are truly 5 core behaviors that leaders need in order to truly improve and transform their leadership journey. And those 5 things, the 5 C's, are clarity, consistency, connection, courage, and celebration. And so those 5 things are really where a leader can start to say, where do I rank on those, like in terms of my effectiveness in those 5 areas and in those 5 behaviors? Am I someone who can be clear? Am I consistent in how I show up? Do I build connection with the members of my team? Do I demonstrate courage? Do I celebrate and recognize good performance? Those kinds of things. Just starting with that kind of a philosophy as well, whereas you're not getting lost in different types of assessments and frameworks and all these things that confuse and overwhelm you so that you stay stuck in your leadership journey. It's really about, what are the basics? What are the simple core behaviors that I need to look at within myself? And that would be the best place to start. So first, getting clear on the kind of leader you want to be, and then looking at the core simple behaviors that you can adopt to start building better relationships on your team and be more effective as a leader.
All right, Julia, thank you so much. So my next question for you is this.
Mm-hmm.
What is the best piece of leadership advice you have ever received or would give?
The best piece of leadership advice, I would say leadership advice, career advice that I've ever received was from an old boss of mine that basically said, if you're not making mistakes, you're not learning anything. And essentially why that has been a great piece of advice for me is that it takes the pressure off of a leader to think that they have to be perfect all the time, that they always have to get it right. That is an impossible standard to hold yourself to. And so when you free yourself of that impossible perfectionist standard and you kind of say, hey, it's okay if I'm going to get something wrong, but I just have to learn from this and learn the lessons so that I can do better in the future and I can set the right example. That for me was a huge, especially as someone who has had a perfectionism challenge for the majority of my career, having the opportunity to free myself of that and learn from mistakes and use those as teaching tools for the employees who work for me, even in my coaching and so forth, that has made a huge difference. So I would say that's probably the best piece of advice, that if you're not making mistakes, you're not learning anything.
Okay, so you are big on learning by mistake.
I'm sorry?
Hi, Julia. I said you are an advocate of learning by mistake.
That's right. And it's not that you're making unnecessary mistakes, right? It's just the fact that mistakes will happen. There's no way for you to be perfect.
Okay.
There's no way for you to always get it right 100% of the time. We're humans. So mistakes will happen, but it's what you do when those mistakes happen. It's what you do with that lesson. It's what you do with that opportunity to learn. Instead of internalizing it and beating yourself up about it, it's realizing that this is part of the journey and it's an opportunity for you to grow and get better and expand, versus using it as a way to, like I said, beat yourself up or be angry with yourself or be disappointed in yourself. It's a learning tool and opportunity.
All right, Julia, thank you so much. So, tell us, you are very vocal about making leadership more human. What does that actually mean?
Yes. So when it comes to making leadership more human, from my perspective, it's realizing that as a leader, your job is to advocate and support and advocate for, build up and support the organization that is below you. It's not about you. It's about the people who are working in the organization every day, making sure that that the organization runs and that you're able to sell the products or services or operate whatever facility. It's about the people who are working there every day. And it's about building genuine connections with those people and recognizing that they're not robots. They're not machines. These are living, breathing human beings who have their own goals, who have their own desires, who have their own interests, and making sure that you're investing the time in those people, in their development, in their coaching, in like I said, building those relationships and connections. People who work in an organization, they want to know that their leaders are also human beings. So they want to make sure that they're not talking to a robot, and they want to make sure that you don't treat them like they're machines or just numbers, that you see them as living, breathing human beings who have their own goals and interests as well. And what has happened with leadership today, especially with the focus on technology and becoming better, faster, cheaper, and using artificial intelligence and all of that, we've gotten away from the humanity of leadership and the relationship building and the connection and the realness of it. And we've just gotten to a point where we treat each other like we're just, like we're just numbers or parts on an assembly line. And instead of realizing that the person next to us has feelings too, and this person has needs too. So when you as a leader can truly step into that and realize that the humans on your team, they want to connect with you, another human being, that then allows for more genuine relationships, genuine relatability. And then you will have a team who's more invested in doing the work and and delivering results for you, because they realize the person that's running the team is a human being just like them, and the person actually cares. That's the other thing about having the humanity, is that someone who actually cares about the well-being of the people in their organization, who cares about their success, who cares about their development, who cares about them achieving their goals as well, not just the goals of the organization. So that care, that humanity, that connection is what will help to set leaders apart, especially moving forward.
All right, thank you so much. So, moving on, tell us the small things you wish more senior executives would stop doing.
There are a few things I would say I wish senior executives would stop doing. One thing that I would say is, when it comes to the celebration of or recognition in the organization, oftentimes that's reserved for like big projects and big events. But there are people who are in the organization who aren't your rock stars, who aren't working on the big projects, but they're like your solid middle of the road performers, but they're there to, they keep what I say, they hold down the fort, or they keep the engine running while your superstars and your high flyers are doing the big projects. And I wish that senior executives would stop just recognizing the big projects, but also spend some time recognizing the organization as a whole and and the contribution that everyone makes to keeping the business running and keeping the business successful. The people whose work is not always seen, but without their work, the organization wouldn't keep moving forward. So that's one thing. The second thing is, I wish that some of these senior executives would stop thinking that because they're in their position that they've arrived, and that what's happening to other people, it doesn't matter. Other people just have to suck it up. Oftentimes I feel like senior leaders, they forget that they were once an analyst, or they were once a frontline employee. who had to deal with the requests that requests that didn't make sense, or they were dealing with overwork or overload or burnout. They forget those days when they get to those senior levels. And so when they pass along assignments or projects down through the organization to work on, and they're just like, well, people just need to get over it and they just need to suck it up. It's harsh because like, well, you too you should remember what it was like when you had to deal with those requests and you didn't like them. You wanted to be treated better. You wanted some empathy. So why don't you demonstrate that same empathy as well? And I would say the last thing is to stop treating team building like it's a transaction, right? Like it's like, okay, we're going to do a team building event, as an organization every quarter, right? Or every 6 months or something. They treat it as a transactional thing. They never ask the organization as a whole, well, what would be valuable, or where do you think things are missing? And again, as a senior executive, you don't have to have all these conversations yourself. That's why you have the leaders below you, but you can give them the directive to say, let's find out what it is that people want to do in terms of strengthening the bonds. What would effective team building look like to them? Where do they see gaps, or where do they see challenges? Getting more input to make sure that team building is a true meaningful activity, and it's not just a check the box transaction that they do every quarter. And the last thing I would say when it comes to things that I wish senior executives would stop doing is treating leadership development like a transaction or a check the box activity. Leadership is an ongoing journey that you have to continue to invest in. And oftentimes senior executives, they wait until people reach the highest levels to then say, oh, you get an executive coach or what have you. But the truth is, you need to consistently get leadership support, leadership development, leadership training throughout your entire leadership journey. And so I feel like senior executives need to treat it as an ongoing development versus, okay, when you get to this point, we'll check this box on your behalf. Because if you're developing leaders on a consistent basis, then what you find is that they perform at a better level throughout their leadership career, instead of waiting until they're a VP or a director for them to start to show better results because they're getting the training. So that's a few of the things that I think that senior executives could stop doing.
Okay, so here is my final question for you.
Mm-hmm.
When you talk about clarity being more powerful than complexity, what does that look like in practice with leadership?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
When you talk about clarity being more powerful than complexity, what does that look like in leadership?
Absolutely. So when it comes to clarity versus complexity, the idea is, especially when it comes to leadership, what I have found is, in order to make leaders feel like they're like make them feel like they're getting the right level of development, or that they're becoming better leaders, we have added more stuff. We've added more assessment, more books, more frameworks, more of everything, more consultants, more programs. And so what we've done is complicated and what I call complexified leadership. And so people are getting lost in just trying to look like a better leader instead of just doing the work and getting the clarity they need to be the right kind of leader. And so what does that clarity look like? It goes back to what we started to talk about at the very beginning, defining what kind of leader do you want to be, and then identifying what kind of leader does your organization need. Right? Because depending on the size of the organization, the industry, the challenges that you're facing, the type of leadership that you need to display in the moment may be different. And the type of leader you need to be in terms of the type of, especially when you think about the type of employees that work for you, the different personalities, the different needs and so forth, the kind of leader that you need to show up as may be different. So spending that time in terms of clarity and getting that understanding is much more powerful than, okay, let me take a DISC assessment or a Myers-Briggs assessment, because all those things can be helpful tools. But when you spend your time just looking at the different tools, that means you're skipping out on the necessary work about clarity in terms of who do I want to be? What kind of leader does my team need? What kind of conversations do I need to have with the folks that work in my organization to better understand what they need? And so, that's really what the distinction is, making sure that they're spending and investing the right level of time on getting clear on who they are, the kind of leader they want to be, and the kind of leader that their organization needs, rather than just focusing on the different tools and programs and the other things that they can get lost in, but may not give them any better understanding of who they need to be and what their organization needs from them.
All right, Julia, thank you so much. This has been a very wonderful conversation. Thank you for sharing your insight on leadership and growth as well. So, if there's one thing you wish listeners would take away from this conversation, what would you want that to be?
If there was one thing, I would just say that leadership is something that can be developed. So if you're wondering, if you're sitting here listening like, hey, can I be a better leader? Absolutely. It is possible. If you are willing to invest the time in becoming the person you need to be, and getting the clarity within yourself and developing the relationships within your organization that you need. But it is possible. I know that leadership can feel daunting sometimes because there's a lot of information out there, but it is possible for you to become a better leader if you're committed to doing so.
Okay, Julia, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking out your time to be here. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. Also want to thank my audience for the reason why we are always doing this.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a great experience. Thank you so much.
All right, do have a wonderful day ahead.
Thank you. You too.